Ron, where are you? Where is Ron right now? You done messed up, Ron!
Okay, I haven't used that intro in a while. Thank you for helping me break in my new setup.
Hey, I'm privileged.
This is for you guys watching. You might have seen a couple weeks ago, I did an interview kind of with the same setup with Daniel Montalvo, but we only had one microphone. And I was, it was doing that little experiment that I was like, oh my God, I love this setup.
Yeah, I think it's more organic. I think it's more comfortable, more relaxed.
And I know a lot of you longtime viewers, when I first set up this whole table and everything, you know that I had the vision of kind of doing the pre-recorded 3-camera sit-down interviews and editing it. And it sounds wonderful until you actually have to figure out how to do all that work.
Right.
And I love doing things live. And also with this setup, like if we were doing a chat that someone didn't want to do live, we could at least do it exactly like this and pre-record it, but at least it's not 3 cameras and
right.
A ton of editing. So thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you for having me.
And also all the time that we've been doing stuff together, we've never done an interview.
Nope.
And so Feral Cheryl is, I'll show you guys her YouTube channel here. Feral Cheryl, can't miss her handle, Feral Cheryl on the loose. Part of the Clearwater crew, you and Dusty and Erica and Sarasota Jerry out there all the time. We've been getting a nice little crowd going. Doing the Friday night protests.
Those are fun. Those really have become a lot of fun. We're really digging on them. And concert nights.
That's right.
At the Sound.
And you and Marilyn are always crocheting these hilarious things. Now you both do them, right? Like you do the body thetans.
Yeah, I do the body thetans.
Oh, there you go.
Always have one with me. I do the body thetans.
I should get one.
And we were doing the dumpster fires. You can keep that one.
Oh,
we were doing dumpster fires for a little bit because it's all relatable. And I just did like these little elf hats too recently. I was very anxious, so I made some hats. It was a lot of fun. We crochet all day long. That's pretty much what Marilyn and I do.
That's right. And who made the Xenu hat? Marilyn did.
Marilyn made the Xenu hat, but I am the bequeather, if that's a word, of the hat. And I have some videos coming, some shorts.
Next time we do a chat like this, you bring the hat and then I'll wear a funny hat as well.
I was wondering if I should have brought it. I should have brought it.
Well, since people have seen you around the whole time for so long and on my channel, in all my protest live streams, you're in there. Let's just talk about your history in Scientology.
Yeah.
Because in a strange way, you were born into Scientology, but were never really in Scientology. And that all by itself is kind of an interesting story. How such a thing possible.
Right.
And so where does your Scientology story begin?
My Scientology story begins with my father in 60, 61, 62. I can't remember what year, but anyway, it was before I was born. I was born in 65. He joined the Church of Scientology, the founding church in Washington, D.C. One of his drummer friends from Scotland told him what a great thing he just jumped into in America, and you should go. I can get you a job, and you should try this thing, man, because it's like really cool. And this was, the early 60s, when all these new religions were popping up and all these new ways of looking at things, and men going to the moon. They were talking about that a lot. So my dad had this, he was already kind of lost in space as it was. So he started attending the founding church of Scientology in DC. My mom was at home with me in 65. She didn't want to join. She went down, she got on the cans for a bit, and she just didn't like it.
Was your dad American?
No, my dad was Scottish. My mom was born in London. My dad from Glasgow. And they met in London. They got married and they came to Washington, D.C. because he was offered a job by Jack French, Liza Minnelli's manager. So he was working in D.C. He worked at the Rotunda. He played drums at the Rotunda in the Capitol building. He got around a bit. I could clout chase off of my dad quite a bit, by the way. I don't need you. So, so that's where he started. He really enjoyed it. He grew up in Glasgow. Glasgow, when he grew up in the early 1900s, it was very violent, very cold, dirty, full of lice and poor people, drunk people fighting in the streets. So
So like today.
basically it's the same. It hasn't really changed. We're wearing,
I've been to
different
Glasgow.
clothes. You've been, yeah. Okay, so if you know,
That's
you
just
know.
a joke, you guys.
No, it's the truth.
No, I mean
though.
I've been to Glasgow,
But it it was he saw, and the war. He grew up during the war, so he saw a lot of things that I don't know traumatized him, and he wanted to live in a world without criminality or insanity or war.
You said the early 1900s. When was he born?
1927.
Okay.
So, and the Second World War started he just missed the First World War, but they were, when he was born, they were coming out of that era, the First World War, into the Second World War, the whole Germany thing. And so he saw they would put up posters of children, just things from the war that were very vivid, and I guess really affected him. So he wanted to live in a peaceful world. And though he went cosmic and joined Scientology, and they really, he took it hook, line, and sinker.
So that your folks had no exposure to Scientology in the UK?
No, none whatsoever.
Wow.
None. Only my dad had been working on a ship. He was a musician on a cruise ship. So one of the other drummers in the band had mentioned to him, he had already gotten into Scientology. Yeah, man, I'm moving to America. I'm going to do this thing. It's way cool. And my dad kind of.
Wow.
And my mom was 13 years younger than my dad. So she would do anything he said. And they came to America. And then I was born in Washington, D.C.
So you are by birth an American citizen. So we're going to jump around a little bit. Where does the accent come from? How did you end up growing up not in the United States, I guess?
Because my mom didn't want to join Scientology. The church actually told my dad, you should get rid of them because they're just Dev T. They're just in the way. So that's why I like wearing that T-shirt that says Dev T, because I take that on as a gift, that name. I was already an SP, apparently. My dad was doing locationals. I wasn't allowed to cry. He would pick my little finger up and make me touch walls and touch things. So my mom didn't want to do any of that. She's like, you can go do it. But the church convinced my dad to get rid of us.
Wow.
So my dad went one day and bought two tickets home back to England. My mom didn't have a clue. It just came out of left field. And he just came home one day and he said, here, pack your bags. You and the kid are leaving. You're going back to England.
Were they married?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It destroyed my family.
Oh, my God.
So mom and I had no other choice. She was 26, I think, a single mom now, and just kicked back to England. Just threw us away.
I'm wondering, did your folks have citizenship? Like you had?
My mom had a green card. They both had because it was easier to get back then. It was different.
So she could have stayed.
Oh yeah, she could have stayed.
But
my dad wanted her gone from America. He didn't want her anywhere near him. He wanted us gone.
Wow.
So he said, just go back to your family. Go back to the gutter where I got you from.
Oh my God.
He broke her. He really broke my mom. That really did a number on her. So she spent the rest of her life trying to find a man who was better than him, just to shove it in his face. And she never did. She just went from creep to creep, from a-hole to a-hole. And I was there, unfortunately. So they sent us back. He sent us back to England, and we ended up at my aunt's house. She was married to this guy, and they had 3 boys. So my mom would drop me off there while she had to work. She was single mom. She had to pay the rent. And trigger warning, people. My uncle was a pedophile, and none of us children got away with anything. He was very strict. He was very mean, and it kind of. So from the age of 15 months to the age of 8, when my mom married a Spanish guy and we moved to Spain, I was just abused for the first couple of years of my life.
Oh my God.
And then we went to Spain. So I can speak Spanish, but I also have an accent with my Spanish.
Are you fluent in Spanish?
Sí.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, to me, this is why I go and protest, because to me, Scientology, because of it was Scientology's decision, it wasn't my dad's. my life ended up not being so great. And anytime I asked him, I would like, do you know what happened to me? I've told you what happened to me. Do you care? And he would just look right through me like, you are responsible for your own condition. That's what he would tell me.
Wow. Do you remember, like you were so young by the time you went back to the UK, do you remember before that? Do you remember being in the States?
I don't. I
early?
don't remember being here. No, because I was under 2. No, I just remember growing up when my memories begin in London. Icky London.
And so how did you end up ever reconnecting with your dad?
Well, we always stayed in touch. So my dad's mom, my nana, and my dad's sister, my aunt, they lived in Portsmouth, the south of England.
Oh.
So every summer, I would go and spend my summers down in Portsmouth by the seaside with my aunt and my nana. Well, they were the Scientology side.
Oh, they were Scientologists too?
My cousin Kim and my aunt. My aunt didn't do a lot, but my cousin Kim, my aunt's daughter, my cousin, she did.
So your dad got his sister in and her kid.
Yeah, the oldest. My twin cousin boys, they didn't want to join. They were younger, and they've never, same as me, they always managed to like swerve and not have to sign anything or fill anything out. Somehow we managed, the 3 of us, to stay out of it. But my cousin Kim, my oldest cousin, she I think knows Christy Colburn, I think.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Like that, does that mean she was in the Sea Org even?
No, she wasn't in the Sea Org. She was just public.
Maybe went to Delphi or something.
But she hung around. That was all she hung.
I forget where Christy was a public. Like before she joined the Sea Org, I forget if she was an LA person. I don't remember.
I think it was in LA maybe, because I know my cousin, every now and then she would come out to LA and do stuff out there, and then all of a sudden in the 2000 something, I don't know when, like Mike Rinder left too. All of a sudden my dad called me up one day and he said, you know, Kim's been declared.
Is Kim her sister?
No, that was
your cousin.
My cousin, his niece. And I'm like, oh, she's got to get her ethics in.
What's her last name? Can you say?
Kim, well, it was Kim Tillis, Kim Machado. I found her in the course completion list under Kim Tillis and Kim Machado.
Was she declared because she was having something to do with Mike and the people who were leaving?
No, she just lost her crap at the sandcastle.
Oh, totally not related at all.
She was sick and tired. She got locked in. I don't know what level she was doing, but obviously it was one of the upper ones. She got locked in. She told me this story. I died laughing. And is there like balcony? Is there like apartments, right? There's like balconies to get to the doors. Is it kind of like that at the sandcastle? Yeah,
a lot of the rooms have balconies.
Right. Okay. So she was in a room and they wouldn't let her leave. They locked her in the room. So she managed to bust the door down somehow. Now, she was a very refined lady. Grabbed a pan, a couple of pans. She was running up and down the hallway screaming, LRH is a lie. I mean, just bad mouthing L. Ron Hubbard because she wanted to get out. They wouldn't let her leave. And hours and hours and hours. She was screaming and they kept pushing her back in the room. She kept getting out and busting through people. And in the end, they just let her go. But she got declared. And of course, they pulled my dad in. And he had to buy a bunch of congresses to make up for it, which I now own. But yeah, he was really mad at my cousin. And I'm like, I don't want to join. If he's going to get mad at me, if I mess up, I'm not going to do any of this. No, thanks. So yeah, she got declared, but then they kind of messed around in the free zone on the outside with the independent Scientologists. She had bowel cancer, but didn't get surgery or anything, or wouldn't do the chemo. But she would pay someone $400 an hour to be, get some auditing online from someone in Australia. She's dead. But yeah, that was my cousin Kim. She lost it at the sandcastle, which I just love that story that she, went nuts.
Wow. When she got declared, did your dad disconnect from her?
No.
Oh.
Well, he told her because they were really close. I always had I was a bit jealous because they had that close relationship that I never had with him because she was in Scientology. So he was really mad at her and he wouldn't hang out with her or talk to her. But when we had Christmas dinner together, we would all get together. He would just sit there looking at her like this. We would just be, look at her. She needs to get her ethics in. And then we found out she had cancer. And then when he kept saying that, then I really started getting upset. Like, that's an ugly thing to say.
Right.
That's horrible. But he believed she had cancer because of her ethics.
Oh, God. But he didn't actually officially disconnect from her. That's interesting.
No. Well, see, this is, like, he was deep in, but he didn't approve of smoking. And I was a smoker all my life. I grew up in London, so we all smoked. He always told me off for smoking, and the rest of them, all the Scientologists love a good smoke. What was it? Something else I found out the other day. Oh, what was it? It was something you said in one of your lives. I'm like, oh my God, that's something else he lied about.
Something I said in one of my lives?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. But anyway, yeah. So there's things that were a bit contradictory with him, but like he was in all the way.
And so, okay, so you and your mom, you go back to the UK, and I said, how did you reconnect with them? And you said, well, you visited your aunt and your cousin, but
Every summer.
But visiting your aunt and your cousin isn't the same thing as reconnecting with your dad.
Well, he did a sneak because my mom didn't want me to see him because he kept threatening, I'm going to come and kidnap her and bring her to the States and put her in the Sea Org.
Oh.
So my mom was really scared. Anytime she found out he'd come to England with his new wife, all of a sudden, Mom and I were going on vacation somewhere for 4 days.
Oh.
Like, why are we in Leicester?
Oh, she was trying to keep you away.
Yeah. So we kept like bugging off out of London to escape. So, but she was okay with me visiting my nana and my aunt, his sister, and his mom, right? So that she didn't mind that so much. Well, one of the summers that I went down to stay with my aunt and my nana and my cousins, my dad was there. He showed up it was a secret. And he showed up with his wife. And this is what they were doing stuff at St. Hill. They'd come to do something at St. Hill. And this is really funny. My mom, the only picture I had of my dad when I was a really little girl, he had like this long wig on and he was drumming. And my mom said, he's a musician. Well, I heard he was a magician. So that one time I was a bit older this one time. So when I met him, I'm like, Dad, are you a magician? Well, you know what that is to a Scientologist?
An OT?
This child recognizes the magic in me. So he liked me that summer because I fed his ego, you know.
Yeah.
But I really meant to say, oh, are you a musician? Because he was a drummer. Anyway, but that made him real happy. So that summer there was letter writing in between and phone calls. I would talk to him here and there. I didn't see him much. But when I did, he wasn't like everyone else's dad. I just wanted a dad like, oh, that's my dad. He should be doing dad things, right?
Yeah.
So while I saw him that summer, it was my birthday. And, what did dads do? They buy their daughters presents. Well, I'm not a greedy person, or I've never been a greedy kid, but I said, hey, Dad, I really want a bike. And he kind of looked at me, and I remember him looking at me going, is that how dads are supposed to look at you when you ask him for a bike for your birthday? I was really kind of confused. Anyway, after the summer, he sent my mom the money to Spain. We were living in Spain at the time, to buy me a bike. And it came with a note that said that I manipulated it out of him. My mom goes, see, look, this is what your dad thinks of you. I was 10. I'm like, really? I did get my bike, but it came with Scientologies. Everything did.
It's so
weird. Yeah. Nothing was ever just love and kindness and just, family feel, good vibe. It was, now we're at exchange. It was awful.
Wow. So then how did you end up, at what point in your life did you end up back in the States? Because I know later towards the end of your dad's life, like you guys were reconnected.
So I was living in London and I was 21 and things weren't really going great for me. I had to look for another apartment in London and it was such a It was a really weird summer. Margaret Thatcher was selling half of England. It was politically, things were bad. The economy was bad over there. And I remember a lot of my friends were leaving. One went to work in a kibbutz for the summer. One went to work in like an 18 to 30s sandals resort in Italy for the summer. Everyone was going somewhere really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I had an American passport. And I thought, oh, well, I've got a friend over there somewhere. I can just bug off to America for a little bit. So I called my friend, David. I didn't know where he lived. Thank God he lived in Laguna Beach. Lucky me. He's like, yeah, you can come over. I'm thinking of just coming over for like a month or two. What do you think? He goes, yeah. So I bought a ticket with a return ticket. I came over, and like by day 3, I'm like, I'm not leaving. I'm in Laguna Beach. I'm not going back to grotty London. This is heaven. And I got a job in a restaurant, met a whole bunch of people. And back then in the late 80s, Laguna was all very gay. It was all gay people. All my friends were gay. So there was a lot of parties happening all the time. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun in Laguna. And then after a couple of years there, I had to leave Laguna because of all the fun. It was starting to become a problem.
There were warrants. She was wanted. And no.
Well, yeah, it got a bit iffy. So, but yeah, what were we saying?
You came to the States in Laguna Beach. Yeah.
So at the age of 21, I came back to America, and I just stayed because I just went and got my Social Security card. I was an American citizen, so I didn't really have to do much.
Right.
Just got my Social Security card and went and got a job and started working and just started partying and enjoying myself at the beach. And then I found my ex-husband, married him and stuff in Laguna. That was lovely. Shouldn't have married him, though, but it was a lovely wedding. So that's it. I came back to America, and my dad told me, don't come to America. It's full of gangs. It's full of gangs and immigrants. He already started on that back then.
Your dad's like, don't come here.
Yeah.
Because it's full of gangs and immigrants.
It's full of gangs and immigrants.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, I'm 21. I'm not going to listen to you. So I lived in Southern California, and he was living in LA at the time. So I would drive up and spend some time with him and his wife. And, well, she wouldn't let me anywhere near him. She was really weird. But, I would see them every now and then. We'd go and have brunch. So I was in touch with him then. And they were always feeding me like this line of, well, are you spiritual? Do you pop out at parties? Are you popular? Just always kind of explaining and writing things down on napkins, like about genetic entities and clams. And I'm like, yeah, all the stories, all the things I'm hearing you guys talk about. I'm like, oh my God, it wasn't the dementia. This is what they talk about. Like Daniel said, Scientologists are really weird. The conversations would be just, spiritual, some of them are really kind of cool and very humanitarian sounding, but some of them are real wacko. The moon is empty and it's full of grays with computers who are just observing us and making us act weird. And okay. And there's a gray living in my house.
A gray alien?
Yes. When his wife died, I have to tell you that when his wife died the next morning, she appeared to him.
When your dad's wife died, or the alien's
my dad's wife died.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. This is when they were in Vegas. She died, and she appeared to him at the end of the bed, but she couldn't speak because, she was just dead, new, like fresh dead theta, drop dead theta. But right next to her, there was a little gray who could speak for her and who telepathically told my dad that she was fine, and he was.
Oh my goodness.
So anytime like his shoehorn went missing, he would blame the little gray. Well, it was me. I would hide it. But here in Clearwater, he swore that his little gray was with him forever since his wife died, which I think was just something he created for himself to comfort himself because he missed his wife, to fill the void of his wife dying.
Wow.
In the form of a gray, though.
So did he seem to think it was just the being of an alien gray, or like an actual?
Oh no, it was just a little gray that just came to take care of him. He was just ordered to come take care of him, make sure he was okay.
But like a physical one, or like a thetan of a?
No, a physical one.
Oh my goodness. Was Was he still in Scientology?
Only in his head.
Oh.
When he left Scientology, he was with the group with David Mayo and them lot that ran away and started their own.
Oh,
little thing.
really?
Yeah, he went with them.
Oh.
So he got himself out of the trouble and got himself back in the good graces of the church after that.
He did?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I don't have an inheritance.
Because he gave it all to Scientology.
Yeah. So he got back in with it because he didn't want to be on the outs with them. You know, he just loved the church so much. He loved the group thing. So, but he ran off with those guys, and he has this letter I showed you, and you said, "Yeah, that's not real." And it said, "This is the last wishes of L. Ron Hubbard." And it said in there that David Miscavige has taken over. He didn't want him to take over. Stuff like that. But I've been told it's not real. That
I don't
letter.
remember seeing what you're talking about.
I'll send it to you again. It's really weird, but it's
okay.
So yeah, he took off. He was really upset when L. Ron Hubbard died. Very upset, and he didn't like what the way the church was going. He'd been there from the beginning. What are you doing in my church? David, he could see everything, the squirreling that David Miscavige was doing, and he's like, I'm not paying for doing all this shit again. And he was just indignant. So he ran off with those guys, and he was with them for a while, got back in the good graces of the church, but then he just pulled away. He just pulled away and ended up in the free zone. So he moved to Vegas after Los Angeles. He moved to Vegas. That's where his wife died. He lived with his wife, and that's where she passed away. But he was, you know, the free zone group up there, Ray Robles.
I know the name.
He used to go and hang out with them, and they did like a convention, an ex-Scientologist convention every year. He would go to that. So, and he had a friend, I don't know who he was, some guy called Harry. If my dad needed something, this guy could audit, but without cans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he would heal him from afar. Now I do Reiki. That's what you do in Reiki. You can do, you know, distance healing. So I'm guessing that's what it was. But this Harry guy, I don't know who Harry was, but my dad really had as much respect for him as he did for LRH. He always spoke of LRH as if the sun shone out of his ass.
Really?
Yeah.
So, okay. So your dad, until the end of his life, believed in Scientology.
Oh, completely. And yeah, all the axioms, just the beliefs themselves, that he always told me LRH has found the truth. Oh God. And I have trust issues. I don't believe anyone who tells me they have the truth, probably because of that. But he really did believe. He was with LRH on the Apollo. He was close to Mary Sue. Mary Sue and him apparently were buddies.
What was your dad's name?
Sam Fullerton. I've asked Janice, I've asked people, because I watch a lot of Peeling the Onion, and I've asked Bruce Hines and a couple of those people, do you guys remember a grumpy Scottish guy? And no one does. No one remembers him.
Really?
But my dad left me a written account, because I'd ask him so many questions over the years, and some things he didn't answer. Some things he shared too much with me, and some things he didn't answer. But he did leave me a written account of him on board the Apollo, of his little story in Scientology.
Wow. Well, if anyone out there does remember your dad, is there an email address you give out?
Feral Cheryl on the loose at gmail.com. I would love to speak to anyone that remembers my dad. Anyone.
And let's make sure everyone knows how to spell that properly. Feral Cheryl on the loose at gmail.com. You can see it spelled out right there under the name of her YouTube channel. Okay, so for the last portion of his life, he lived here in Clearwater, right?
Yeah.
And was he in the good graces of Scientology at the end of his life?
Yes, kinda. Yeah. So my cousin Kim and my aunt had now moved here to Clearwater. This is where they lived, because Kim was always doing stuff here in Clearwater, like getting thrown out the sandcastle. But they remained here in Clearwater because it's full of Scientologists. That's who they want to be around. Whether they're friends with them or not, they still wanted that, you know, they wanted to be around. They felt safe, I guess. So when my dad's wife died and the little gray appeared, my aunt and cousin went to his house in Vegas, threw everything away of my dad's wife. She just passed away, just dropped the body last week. they threw away everything. Every picture of her, all her clothing, all her belongings, everything. They didn't even tell her family she was dead. And her family were not Scientologists. They lived in Vermont. It was really ugly. It was really horrible the way they dealt with Shirley. I really can't. It was horrible.
Why did they do that?
Because, you know, once she's dead, you've got to get rid of everything. She's not here anymore. It doesn't matter. She's gone now. She's dropped the body. So that's that. They were so cold about each other when one of them died. And that really upset me. I didn't like Shirley, but I really thought that was disrespectful, the way they handled her. So my cousin got rid of everything that belonged to my dad's wife. And on the way to the Shirley was cremated, and on the way to the airport, my cousin realized, oh, I have to get rid of Shirley's ashes. And she just tossed them out the window of a cab.
No.
On the way to the airport. To the Henderson Airport in Vegas. Yeah. Now, apparently they blew back and hit her in the face, which was totally a Shirley thing to do. That would so be Shirley, like, oh, really? Yeah, take some of me with you.
Oh,
but that's how disrespectful they were. And when Kim died, same thing. I don't even know where her ashes went. Very disrespectful of life. Sad.
So it sounds like they went out to Vegas, wrapped up his affairs, and then brought him back.
And brought him back to Clearwater. Right, that's where we were. Yeah. So they brought him back to Clearwater, and of course he was happy to be here. Not big. He wasn't in Scientology really so much anymore, but he was around Scientologists, and that's where he wanted to be.
And even if you're saying he wasn't really in anymore, like he was in good standing. He just wasn't really active in online.
Right.
He wasn't declared.
No. Right.
Okay.
Because when my cousin got declared, he went in and he screamed at them, "You can't declare me," because they were threatening him too with being declared. You know, well, you haven't come back in, you haven't done anything, and he had a fight for to be in good standing with him
while maintaining a connection to his niece.
Yeah, well, he told them that he cut off with. Yeah, oh no, he told them that he disconnected from Kim.
I see.
He definitely told them that, but he didn't.
I see.
He was just mad at her. And would just kind of not look at her.
It's an interesting example of how even someone who truly, truly believes in Scientology can, in some circumstances, be willing to lie to them to do what they actually think is the right thing.
Oh, absolutely right. Well, he believed that he did the real Scientology, not the squirrel stuff they do. So he always knew better than anyone else in the room. He was the only smart one. The rest of us, just a bunch of morons, just a bunch of bumping into each other.
So I'm curious if you mentioned the reason I don't have an inheritance is because he gave it all to Scientology. But the last money that he would have given, would it have been to actual Scientology or to independent Scientology?
Oh, independent Scientology.
Oh.
Yeah. Still, he's giving it to someone.
I see.
Yeah, he just didn't want to give it to the David Miscavige group. He didn't like them anymore. No, the real ones, the Free Zone.
So even after he went with David Mayo and all that stuff, then got back into Scientology's good graces, he then after that did go back to the independent Scientology.
Yes.
Oh, wow. But never officially got declared again.
No. And like he would say, if I walk in the Fort Harrison, everyone bows down to me. Like we know that doesn't happen in Scientology. No one bows down to anyone in Scientology. I'm a founding he just really thought big of himself though. I'm a founding Scientologist. They can't treat me. I tell them how they treat me. Okay, Dad. All right.
Wow. And did your mom ever come back over to the States?
Yeah, I came in 87 and my mom and my brother moved here in 1990.
Oh.
So they lived with me in Southern California. My brother lives in the East Bay up near San Francisco.
Okay.
He did really well. I was the pretty one, so I didn't do well academically. My brother was the smart one. He went to Berkeley.
So you're saying he's ugly? Yeah.
I just say that to him just to give him a hard time. He knows that.
And is your mom still around?
No, she passed away in 2019.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm still getting over that. And then my dad calls me up in Yeah, this was right after my mom died. I think he was waiting for my mom to pass away, actually. He's like, yeah, I'm getting a bit goofy, you know, and I'm on my own. And I'm like, well, Dad, should I worry? Well, yeah, you know, and he just told me something like he smashed his car, he kept bumping into people. And well, he was 90 something, 93. And he just felt like, you know, I could really use some help. And of course, I didn't think twice about it. Well, he's my dad. I got to go take care of him. Now, of course, I still have resentment because he never took care of me one day in my life, never changed my diapers. When my mom asked him for child support, he told her to go sell her body if she needed money.
Oh, my God.
And she was vengeful enough to keep that letter to show me when I was older.
He put it in a letter?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, and on his divorce papers here in America, and you can find it online still if you go and look for, you know, the divorce decree, Samuel H. Fullerton, Highness. He doesn't have a middle name. He just made sure he put the H in there for her to know you're from the gutter and I'm royalty. It was so ugly the way he bull baited my mom, even on the divorce papers. Samuel Highness Fullerton.
But that's a fake middle name? That's not.
Yeah, he didn't have a middle name.
Why did he think of himself that way?
Because he just thought he was just telling her that she was a lowlife because he just wanted her out of his life.
Mm.
So he bull baited the crap out of her, really. That I wasn't okay and I was, you know, just needed to get rid of us.
Wow.
And yeah, he was just saying the most horrible thing. So my mom, as vengeful as she was, made sure to keep all the letters they wrote with all the nasty stuff in them. So when I became a teenager, I could read them and like really hate him, which didn't work, but okay.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Because I didn't know those things were true. I thought it was just her being mean. And then when I grew up and actually got to meet him, I'm like, oh yeah, this man is not pleasant.
Wow. You mentioned your brother. Is that a brother from your dad's second wife?
That's my mom's second husband. So he's a half brother. He's Spanish. He's from the Spanish dad, my stepdad.
So he was born in Spain.
In Valencia, yeah.
And he's here now too.
Yeah.
Wow. So he never probably, he should not have had any exposure to Scientology.
See, no one else in my family, that side of my family, ever, I had no one to talk to about any of this because number one, they weren't interested. They didn't know anything about it and they could care less. And then it's affecting me in my life. And, you know, I just had no one to share it with ever. Or I would just, when computers, the internet came around, I would just follow Mark Bunker and you and Mike Rinder doing videos in someone's backyard.
Yeah.
Nick Lister, those videos you did, Tori Magoo. I would follow any Angry Gay Pope popped up. I would just follow anyone. And then the anonymous, when the anonymous protest started, that really, I just wanted to get out there so bad. I'm like, oh, I want a mask. I want to get out there.
And where were you living then?
I think I was in Southern California.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Southern, and I was a single mom, so I didn't have time really to just, you know, dump my kid off with someone, because then I would have been doing what my dad did. Mm-hmm. So I didn't do anything back then. And it was scary because you heard if anyone came out of Scientology and spoke up, they would get followed, harassed, stuff made up about, I mean, yeah, just awful. So I would say things on my MySpace or on my Facebook about Scientology here or there, but not, you know, nothing too
Did
deep.
you ever meet at that time any of the people that were involved in all of that?
No. I'm glad I didn't, actually. No, my dad kept that to the side. Like I said, he would share more stuff between him and Kim because she had been in Scientology. So I always had a bit of jealousy towards her, but in a loving way. It wasn't an angry jealousy. It was like, oh, you get to hang out with my dad.
And I feel like I asked you this earlier, but I can't quite remember the answer. How did you end up, from being in California to Florida? I remember how your dad ended up from Vegas to Clearwater. How did you end up here?
So dad asked me to come and take care of him.
Oh, I see.
Because he was now 93.
He was already here in Clearwater?
Yeah.
You were in Southern California?
I was in Southern California.
Oh, okay.
And I was like in between places to live. It was kind of the perfect timing, really. And I said, okay, Dad, I'll come take care of you. So I got a plane ticket, and this is in the middle of the pandemic.
That recently? 2020?
2020, July 2020 is when I came.
Oh.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to Florida. I'm just going to go to Florida to die. No one wears a mask. And it's full of Scientologists. So I came and I started taking care of it. Well, I knew what I was going to come to because he was very strict. My dad didn't like me talking to anyone, even the neighbors, because, you know, you're going to go PTS if you talk to a third person. There was always a third person. He was always bringing up that third person thing. He would, if I was just chatting, oh, hi, how are you? Having a chat with one of the neighbors, he would grunt at me. And I would have to walk away. So I wasn't allowed to talk to him. I never went anywhere. But it was really he was really weird, very controlling individual. And I knew that's what was going to happen. Now, it was the pandemic, so I really couldn't leave the house anyway. Oh. But he didn't believe in it. Oh, no. People, if they're just saying they're going to die, they're going to die. It's not real. Oh, God, Dad. He would wear his mask on his chin. And he went to Clearwater Mall every day to have a coffee and a cookie and basically stand too close to people and get yelled at. So he was very... Now, I was at home, stuck at home, just cooking for him and, you know, just doing the housely chores for him. I was basically a wife, taking care of him. Well, he started to get sick. He had high blood pressure. I mean, for a 90-year-old, he wasn't too bad because he took his vitamins every day, or vitamins. Well, he started to get sick. You know, he was deteriorating. His body starts to shut down. So I had to call in doctors and nurses. The ambulance came. And he would yell and scream at everyone, F off me, don't touch me, I'm fine. Dad, you're on the floor and you're bleeding. No, you're just telling me I'm sick, so I'm sick. I'm fine. And that was his mentality to the day he went out. So I know the dementia must have cottoned on to his Scientology beliefs. And he just regurgitated these silly things all day long. So it was very, very hard to take care of him. Also, I wanted to give him his respectful way. I wanted him to go out the way he wanted without all the psych meds and stuff. Because at the end of life, the cocktail they give you, it's all psych meds. I had to give those to him and I felt really bad. It's so weird how it affects your life. But so the day that Natalie and my Tony were here, that week they were here, that's when my dad passed away that morning. So when we all went to lunch, I was grateful to have something to do that very day, because when a parent passes, whether you're close or not, it's still, it puts you in a really weird spot for a while. So I was just very glad to be distracted, to have something to do, and I could actually leave the house and not have to worry about him. Yeah. So last year he passed away on April 13th, a month after L. Ron Hubbard's birthday and a month before his. So that's how I ended up in Clearwater. Well, he did leave me his apartment. So I do have an apartment to live in now, which is nice. But it would have been nice if there was something else in there, you know, a little extra.
So all the Scientology stuff that you have, like e-meters and stuff, that's because it was your dad's. Wow. And
I have the old original, the wooden one. That's in the
Mark V.
Yeah, I have that little guy. And then 3 of the Mark 7s. And I've never plugged them in. I don't want to. No, I've stayed away from you all this time. It's not going to happen now.
They won't do anything to you if you plug them in.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I told you I had trust issues.
Wow. I remember thinking how funny it was. Because I can't remember when you and I started having anything to do with each other. I don't remember. Do you remember when that started?
Yeah.
What was the
you
first
were crazy.
Time? What was the first time?
So you were running for city council and you put out an email or you said on a live or something, on a live, you said it on a live. Oh, yeah, if you're close by and you want to come to my campaign kickoff, just email me here and I'll send you the address.
Was it at my house?
Yeah. So I emailed you and you sent me an address and I'm like, this man is crazy.
That's right.
Like, he has no trust issues?
It was in my backyard. I remember we had a great time.
So, right, I came to your house, but little did I know that half of the Aftermath show was going to be there. Mary Kahn, Matt Pesh, Amy Scobie, Mike Rinder showed up with Christy.
Yeah.
He gave me such a dirty look too. Oh, that was weird. Who else was there? Nasty Nathaniel.
Mark Bunker would have been there. Nasty Nathaniel
was there.
Yeah.
And I remember just sitting there with some lady that lives down in St. Pete.
Okay. There was, I don't remember, but
She'd made herself a t-shirt with Aaron or something. And we were just both of us sitting there like feeling totally left out. Like, can you believe this? Can you believe we're here? Like, this is everyone from the TV show. This is insane. So for me, that was huge. I went home that night and I was just buzzing because I'd met all these ex-Scientologists that I'd watched their story and I like cried over them. So that was huge for me. And I met Goliath.
that's right.
So, and yeah, that was a great evening. And so you had my number. I think, yeah, you had my number. You took my number for something.
Well, pretty much anyone during the entire campaign who ever asked for a yard sign, for example,
Oh,
I would
did.
personally,
I
would
have one at home.
personally deliver it. So literally anyone who ever asked for a sign, I have their contact info.
That's right. Okay, so because I have one of your yard signs. Right. So that's what happened. So then the next thing we started watching in November, we started watching Streets at the test center.
Mhm.
And you started talking about it more on your lives. And it was just, just getting itchy. Like, oh, this is so good. I'm so glad these guys are out there protesting. And then in January, it was like January 2nd or January 3rd, I think. You texted a bunch of us and said, hey, I'm going to go out protesting. Do you guys want to go out? If you can, just pop down the flag. And that's the first time it was you, me, Laurie, George, Tampa Bay Man, and the duck guy.
The duck guy.
Do you remember that tall guy? They used to come out he only came out a couple of times.
Why do you call him duck guy?
Because he would do the little shorts of feeding the ducks. I forget his name right now. But yeah, he only came out a couple of times. And that was it. That was it. We went out. And I didn't stop.
That's right.
Yeah, I never waited for you to call me again. We just started going out there.
That's
and then
right.
Dusty showed up. Yeah, because it was like me and Laurie would show up. Erica, I don't remember seeing Erica there at first either. But yeah, then Dusty showed up and that's it. Then we just became the Clearwater crew.
And then Sarasota Jerry.
Oh, and Jerry, right.
Yeah. Amazing. And so for the whole rest of your life, was your dad and your aunt and your cousin the only connections you ever had to Scientology?
Yes.
Or did you ever make accidentally make Scientology friends or ex-Scientology friends or anything like that?
Somehow, it's always been in my life. So in London, some of my friends were from Est.
Okay, from Earnhardt Seminar Training. Yeah.
So, and they were, you got to do Est, you got to do Est, you got to do Est. And I'm like, oh my God, all these people trying to get me in to do all these things. And then when I came to America, I lived in Orange County. One of my neighbors, I was always looking after her teenage children who were drunk or on drugs or something because she was at the org in Tustin on course or doing something.
Is that the Orange County org? Was it in
Yeah.
Tustin? Okay.
So Luis Garcia was from there, right? Okay, so I bet you he knew these people.
Do you remember her name or their names?
Ramsey is the last name.
Okay.
But she got married again, so I don't know what other name she used. But yeah, so one day I'm at the house and I'm looking after one of her sons because he was just roaming around on I don't know what. And I'm like, get in here and stop being an idiot. Sit down, drink water, have some cookies. And I'm like, oh, my back was hurting me or something. He goes, I can give you a nerve assist.
And you didn't know they were Scientologists before that?
No, I knew.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't really, and I'm like, oh, really? He goes, it will really help you. I'm like, oh, you too? Okay. So he gave me a nervous system. I'm like, that was creepy. Because my dad would do the feel my finger one all the time. When I told him my neck hurt, my back hurt.
Yeah.
He was always giving me touch assist. Feel my finger. Yeah. And so I faked it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I feel much better. Thanks, Dad. You are so powerful.
Yeah.
Superman. But it's just weird. Someone putting their finger on you everywhere. Like, oh, that's a bit too close. Oh, where you going there?
It's
so
funny, like
weird.
sort of the self-brainwashing aspect of Scientology. One of the most common elements of that is, you have to just pretend like this assist is working in order for it to end.
Exactly.
Every
and you have to be
Scientologist
joyful about
knows
it.
this.
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, that feels really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's like that. Yeah. A little more uptone than you were a minute ago. But it was all just BS. So then this past year, Dusty, Sarasota, Jerry, and I went to Southern California, to LA to protest. And it was great. We got to meet Tori. But for one of the afternoons, I wanted to go back down to Laguna Beach to see some friends and buy some art from a particular friend of mine who's a painter. I wanted to get some of her art. So we go to the Sawdust Festival and I run over to my friend's booth and I'm like, oh, Karen, I want that painting. I want that. Yeah. And she asked, so what are you doing now? I'm like, well, I'm kind of protesting Scientology in Clearwater. No, I said, I'm living in Clearwater now. She goes, oh, and I just saw the way she lit up was a bit too much, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm a Scientology protester now. And she went, oh, I was a Scientologist. Oh, Jesus Christ on a cracker. They're everywhere. Someone in my life, they were always on the periphery of me. It's always been there, always. I didn't even know. I knew her for years. I didn't even know she'd done any Scientology at the Tustin Org. So yeah, wherever I went, in England, here in America, there was always someone. And then when I worked in the hair salon in 1998, everyone that worked in the salon was Landmark Education.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, like Est came from Scientology, Landmark came from Est. More or less.
So I did the forum.
What was that experience like?
I got wins.
I mean, a lot of people in Landmark say they get something out of it.
No, it really did. It really did. It did something for me. I went through breakdown and breakthrough. It really did help. They made me see. I stopped acting a victim. Before that, I was a victim. I was in victim role. It was my dad's fault. It was my mom's fault. It was everyone's fault. Wah. After that, I kind of went, oh, I see my part in things. It kind of made me grow up a bit. It was a great weekend. I made my boyfriend do it. I made my kids do the forum.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I put both of them in it. Well, family of cultists. What are you going to do?
Do you see any of the Scientology stuff in the Landmark stuff?
Yeah, now I do. Now that I understand Scientology more, I see it. But Landmark is just light. It's like Scientology light, except if you start working with them, if you go on stuff, then it becomes a total reg nightmare. It's more like Scientology because it's just for the group. It doesn't matter how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what's going on in your life. You just better get it done and make it go right.
Right.
And that's Landmark if you're on staff. So a lot of my friends, after they did the forum, they got all excited about it and joined that IFLP course where you are kind of on staff, and they just became maniacs, all of them.
Do you know what IFLP stands for?
Not anymore.
It's sort of like their staff member, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember what it stands for now.
Did you ever run into any ex-Scientologists in the Landmark space?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I might have, but not that I'm aware of now. But I really did enjoy it. So when I did the forum, I called my dad up after that and I'm like, hey, Dad, I thought he would be real proud of me. I thought this is where things take a turn, where he goes, yes, I love you. You are worthy of my love. Dad, I just did a forum. I just did the Landmark forum. Oh, yeah. It was good. Okay, we won't talk about this anymore. All right. That was it. I really thought he would, because it came from Scientology, but because it came from Scientology squirrel stuff,
It's the worst.
it was the worst. Yeah, it's the worst thing I could have told him.
Yeah. Yeah. In Scientology, there's a special auditing rundown to fix people who've done EST.
Is there?
Yeah. It's called the EST repair rundown. And there's
I didn't know that.
There's not even a landmark repair rundown. Maybe eventually Miscavige will come out with one. But yeah, no, EST is considered like, ooh, that's squirrel offbeat practices, and anyone who does it needs to be fixed.
Well, EST used to be really brutal. Like, they wouldn't ever let you leave the room. You would be in the room 10, 12 hours a day. You wouldn't be allowed to go pee. You wouldn't be, if the room was moving and you're in the middle of a thing with everyone, no one was allowed to stop and leave the. So a lot of people complain, there was a lot of abuse, and they really came down on people. They would bull bait people. There was a lot of bull baiting going on back then. But then they had to change their marketing, their PR. So they switched it to Landmark, and they softened up a bit. You can leave the room if you have to go pee, but they're going to give you dirty looks about it. Really? Do you think you should be leaving right now? Because you're messing up the group if you leave. We're all climbing a mountain together, and if you pull out, everyone's going to fall down the mountain. Okay, I won't go pee.
So did you do some of the S stuff too?
No.
Okay.
I know in England earlier on, my friends were from EST, but when I came to America, by then they switched it to Landmark, and I did Landmark.
Okay.
And that's when it was a bit softer.
Okay.
Now, I hadn't spoken to my mom in 2 years when I went for that weekend, because she was very toxic. And that weekend made me talk to her again, made me bring her back into my life.
Oh.
It made me give up my bullshit a little and take her back in. Then a couple of years later, I had to stop talking to her again because the toxicity just got worse.
Oh, wow.
So I was lucky my mom had actual narcissistic problems. We came from a narcissistic, dysfunctional setting in the family, the English side. And she was very, very difficult. My brother, who's the smart one, he's in therapy still because of mom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was brutal. So between having a Scientologist dad who's completely selfish and a narc mom who's completely selfish, I'm feral. I'm very, very feral.
So it is incredible, though, that during your whole life of having your dad in your life to one degree or another and wanting his approval so much and him being so involved in Scientology, that you never actually did any Scientology?
Like I said, I always swerved. Even when I arrived in 2020, July 2020, like a week later, he comes knocking on my room, on the door. Why don't you join the Sea Org? And I looked at him. I'm like, are you kidding me? I go, why would you want that for me? And he just kind of looked at me a little baffled. I go, you know what they're like. Why would you want that for me? I go, because I don't want that for me. So no. And I'd never spoken to my dad that way before, ever, until this time. Because by now I was really pissed off that it had separated us so much. And he still kept giving me the same crap. Like, I'm here taking care of you. Can you just give it up? And can you just give me a hug and let it go? Can we just be family now?
Wow.
No, to the day I couldn't be out exchange. I couldn't drive his car. I came here, I had nothing. He wouldn't let me, nothing. I mean, he wouldn't loan me $1 if I needed it. It was real hard, but I had to take care of him.
Right. But even the fact that he would even attempt to even bring up to you something like joining the Sea Org, but not try to encourage you to do a communications course.
Oh no. He would, like I said, he would kind of slip these things. Well, if you went on course, there's this particular thing. If you did this, it would really, you would see some things. I see dumb people. That's what I see.
I see dumb people.
So he was always trying, but I just kept swerving.
Wow.
And never managed to, I'm real busy right now, Dad. I just started this new job. I really can't, I don't really have enough money. He's not about to pay for me. So I'm not about to pay to go on course.
Right.
I got to pay, I'm a single mom. I've got to pay my damn
Oh,
mortgage.
so he never even offered like, hey, I'll pay for a course if you'll do it.
No, out exchange.
Wow.
He was very all about that.
Hmm.
So no, he would never, ever. Like for a while there, I was homeless. And I'm like, Dad, I just need help getting into a place. That's all I need. And, I'll pay you back. You are completely responsible for your own condition.
Wow.
I mean, I'm going to get that tattooed on my ass because that's all he ever said to me. So no, he never helped me with anything ever. That's why I was kind of gobsmacked when at the end can you come take care of me? I'm like, well, you got some cheek, don't you?
Yeah.
But, got to do what you got to do.
Wow.
I couldn't, he was on his own. He had no one else. I'm not going to leave him just to some nurses that don't even know him.
So even later on, he didn't have any other kids?
No, he didn't even want me. And he told me that. It was not the nicest. He believed he was Robert Burns, the Scottish poet. That's who he believed he was. So on Burns Night, they just had Burns Night on January 25th. Every year when everyone had the Burns supper, he would cry because he thought they were all.
That's who he thought he was in a past life?
Yes, on his time track. And apparently Robert Burns was a bit of a philanderer and he died from syphilis. So my dad was worried about catching syphilis in this life.
He's like, that's how they got me last time. They're not going to get me this time.
Exactly. And apparently Robert Burns left a lot of children around here or there. So he said, well, I really didn't want to have any kids. But see, this is what I'm going to call my book. Your mother needed a wee bit of beingness, a wee bit of havingness.
Oh my God. That's what he referred to as why she wanted a kid. She needed a wee bit of havingness.
Yeah. So that's what I am. So if I ever write a book, if I ever do, that's what my book's going to be called. A wee bit of havingness, because that's what I was.
Oh my God.
A wee bit of havingness, completely devotee.
Wow. You know what's crazy? Here's a thought that I'm having. So like the evidence of what a group actually believes or what a body of knowledge actually teaches, to me, is whatever culture it brings about.
Right.
So like, meaning even if people wanted to quibble, because I know there's a lot of Scientologists and former Scientologists, right, who would hear stories about like how your dad was, or for example, how Reese's Scientologist dad is. And there are people who would go, that's even crazy in Scientology. There are people who would go, that's not, it doesn't ever say anywhere to treat children that way. There are people who would say that. And I go, the evidence of how Scientology says to treat children is how Scientologists treat children.
Completely.
You can't just point to this one quote and this one quote. The evidence is how Scientologists treat children.
Yeah. And this is how, so I know that's how I was treated. So I know that's how all these other kids are being treated around here.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen some Scientology families give their kids a little more love than I ever got.
Yeah.
But, because it was the 70s. But that's how they treat kids. You are your own little adult being. You're supposed to be responsible for yourself at a young age. Now, I was a good little girl. I always washed my plate after I ate and stuff like that. And I had good manners. So it's not like he never had to, rail things into me. But it was hard. I didn't really have a childhood because I wasn't allowed to be a child. And then when I did, I was being manipulative and trying to get stuff out of him. It wasn't great.
Wow.
It wasn't great.
When we talk about the culture stuff, even within Scientology and even within the culture, you get this variance in how people will treat children.
Right.
And it's almost like no matter how the particular Scientologist is treating their child, they're going to say it's because of their belief in Scientology in some way, shape, or form, right?
Oh, totally.
And so like, I was 4 when my mom got into Scientology, and my parents were never married, and my dad was never in Scientology.
That's right.
So my mom was raising me and my brother as a single mom for a while, and then she married Scientologist Frank DiMartino after she had gotten into Scientology.
Right.
And then they had my little brother, Darius DiMartino, who's 6 years younger than me. And then I think when Darius was 2, they divorced, and Darius was more or less raised by Frank, and like they shared custody, but Frank was really the bringer upper.
Right.
And I mention this because even though Frank was a Scientologist, even though my mom was a Scientologist, Frank raised Darius much more closely to how your dad treated you. Whereas
Really?
he had no worth he had no worth other than
what you can bring to the table.
Yeah, what he could do for the organization.
Yeah.
He treated him like a staff member, not like a child.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's how you're treated.
Yeah.
You're treated like a staff. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. You just found words for me.
And so,
Yeah.
you know, in the household where my mom was in charge, there was Scientology elements and components and this is and that's, but not to the same level. Like we never felt unloved.
Right. Because I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
That not all Scientology children lacked love, that it was given it to some of them.
Sure. And I just think it's one of those things where you take to a certain extent, you take out of Scientology various things, and that impacts the culture. But then there's also personal shit that you sort of put onto it and say, if we'll go slightly political for a moment. Republican Scientologists will point to everything in Scientology and go, this supports Republicanism.
Right.
Democrat Scientologists will do the exact same thing. Because they'll seize upon certain things in Scientology and go, that reflects my values as a Democrat. And Republicans will seize on things, but that reflects my values as a Republican. Yeah. So some things you take from Scientology, some things you sort of imprint on Scientology.
Yes.
And horrible parents will use Scientology to justify their horrible parenting. You know?
Yeah.
But those principles, it's a similar conversation that I had with Miriam Francis about, we're probably far enough into a video I can say this, pedophiles.
Yeah.
Okay. A few years ago, me and Miriam were having like a big public argument over whether Dianetics and Scientology, like, let's say, promotes or advocates pedophilia, right? And I was like, of course it fucking doesn't. And she was seeing it a little differently, right? And we had a phone call about this, and she goes, I can see that you don't see it because it wasn't your experience. Right. But she goes, but imagine that you're a fucking pedophile, right? And you see these things that L. Ron Hubbard is saying about there's no such thing as children. We're all adults in little bodies, whatever. Look at all of the things in Scientology that if you were a fucking pedophile, you'd go, this makes it okay. This is why it's okay. Absolutely. This is how I justify it. This is how it's not an overt.
Yep.
And I was like, oh shit.
Absolutely.
That's right.
A 7-year-old little girl shouldn't shudder when kissed by a grown man.
Right. We were even arguing about that exact paragraph. And I'm like, that's not what that fucking paragraph means.
It does to a pedophile.
Exactly. That was her point.
Yeah.
And she goes, it does to a pedophile. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like you said, yeah, you put your own stuff on it too. And it justifies your whatever.
Exactly.
You find justification in it. Yeah.
That's right. And I'll tell you, when it comes to the parenting stuff, the one thing that kills me about Scientology and what it does to children and families is like, it's so against the natural human parental instincts of humans.
Yeah.
From the youngest age I can remember wanting to be married and have kids and just loving kids. And I just like, kids bring me so much joy. I can't wait till my kids have kids because I want to squeeze some fat little baby legs. And, I can't wait. I miss being able to just enjoy just children running around and being children. Like my kids are too old. That's a different thing. Right. They're all like, they live in their own lives. And so I've always had, even as like a young kid, I remember being like wanting to have families and kids and everything. And then you compare like the experience of families and children in Scientology. I think it's one of the reasons Scientology is failing. Like the culture.
I think so too.
Yeah. The culture and the reality of the Scientology existence is like antithetical to what it really means to have a family and want a family and a big family, or even just to be able to enjoy family. Like enjoying family in Scientology is like off purpose.
Completely.
Yeah.
You've got to be loyal to this group and be doing stuff for this group, not your own group.
Yeah.
That's fish frying stuff. No,
That's
you
right.
can't do that.
If you were off having a family vacation and that's why you couldn't come to course, people would be like, that's kind of PTS to the middle class.
Yeah.
That's kind of woggy. It's not like enjoy the hell out of it. That's what life is about. Go enjoy family. That's what life is. They'd be like,
no,
Jesus, that's kind of off purpose.
it's completely it's unnatural as just a family, just being a family. It's everything about Scientology separates you physically, spiritually from your family members, the ones that you're supposed to be tight with.
Yeah.
And that you normally would be connected. And that connection is still there. And that's why I think a lot of trouble starts up in between that, because, you know, you have to fight that all the time. It's awful. It's awful.
Yeah. You know, I never experienced what it felt like being on the other end of well, let me see. I'll try to explain it by continuing the story. So my mom's had a long-term relationship with another ex-Scientologist, but they never got married. Like they would have gotten married, but they were like against marriage at that point.
Right.
So it wasn't really her husband, but it might as well have been.
Right.
And so my mom at this point is an ex-Scientologist. Her boyfriend / not official husband, Kirk, he's passed away since, but he's an ex-Scientologist. But Kirk had a whole side of his family. Well, his mom was Roman Catholic, but then a whole side of his family that were Jehovas Witnesses.
Oh.
And we went to some family reunion stuff or some stuff. And I finally felt what it was like, what it would feel like for non-Scientologist members of a Scientology family. Because the Jehovah's Witnesses are in a world of their own, just like Scientologists are.
Yes.
They have such a unique
Bubble.
belief in existence and reality that they don't care that you don't believe it. We got our own thing going on here.
Right.
And they're over there talking in their own language and talking about shit. And I'm like, this is what the fuck it feels like to be in a Scientology family and be the odd man out.
Right.
I'm like, they got their own thing going. They don't give a shit about anything else other than their own thing. And I was like, oh man, you don't realize how you make people feel inadvertently in that Scientology elitism, that bubble dwelling elitism, until you're the odd man out and you're like, oh, that's kind of dirty.
Like to the JWs, everyone outside of them is worldly, and that's satanic.
Yes.
And it's kind of the same for Scientologists in a way. They like being around Scientologists, I guess. They just rather be around them. Oh, but yeah, that's, whoa. With a bunch of JWs too. Oh.
And it was so funny because, in the world of Scientology or former Scientology, it's very common to hear Scientologists arguing about what policy really means or what it really says or what's really on policy or what's really off policy. And the funniest thing for me was hearing a Jehovah's Witness and a Roman Catholic have passionate, angry arguments about the Bible. I'm like, oh, this is what Scientologists sound like. It sounds like arguing over a bunch of nonsense, but really caring about it.
Right.
Now, I don't mean to offend people by calling the Bible nonsense, but to a non-Christian, hearing different denominations of Christians argue over the Bible is what is Scientologists sitting around arguing over LRH policy. To an outsider, you're like, what the fuck? Like, why
all these squirrels, Christians, there's all these different groups. Which one's real?
Right. Yeah. So it's weird having a family of the Jehovah's Witnesses and the ex-Scientologists.
That's
and
funny.
All think they're better than everyone else.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There's that elitism, like you said.
Yeah.
That they all, I know the truth. This is why I don't trust anyone that tells me they have the truth. Anyone, ever. I can't.
Right. I don't know where I heard the saying from, but it was like, when you find someone seeking the truth, go with him. When you find someone who's found the truth, run. Or something like that. I don't okay, let's see. We got a whole bunch of starred questions here. If I can get close enough to read them. Let's see what we got. Karen McCourt, two of my all-time faves.
Hi, Karen. I love Karen.
Chris on the drums. It's Farrell Cheryl, so there will be some shenanigans. Jojo, excited for this. Cheryl is great. Farrell, but great. Violet, let's see. Maybe we can scoot a little closer. Easier on the eyeballs. Yeah, God, I love having the two microphones.
I know, it's really good.
Okay, Violetta, being brought up by people in a cult, even if not a member yourself, it inevitably infiltrates your life nonetheless.
Oh, yeah.
A soon church convinced to get rid of his family, and he did just that. Crazy. Did your mom ever tell you more about how that all went down?
Well, it was just a lot of yelling and shouting. She just said he came home one day from work because he would spend all day at the org, and then he was a musician, so he would play music at night in the clubs, and he wouldn't get home till like 2, 3 in the morning. Apparently, he just came home one night and he just threw down 2 tickets. He said, "Pack your bags, you and the kid are leaving." And it was like a day or 2 after that, we were on a plane going back.
And he told her it was because?
Yeah, the church had told me, "You don't want to join. You're an SP.
Wow.
And you're just getting in my way. I need to do more Scientology."
Wow.
So she really held that against him and the church forever. And then she passed that on to me, that little blossom, and I just...
Understandable. Totally. Chris 10M, Cheryl, I hate that happened to you, but I'm so proud of the person you've become. You are sensational, loved, and hilarious.
Thank you.
A soon when you never joined Scientology, but the cult ruined your life anyway. That is so sad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Kelly's story.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing.
Yeah.
It was awful what she went through as a child.
Yeah.
Oh, her story made me cry so hard.
Definite trouble source. It's Erica. Did y'all see Cheryl's short yesterday? What did you put up yesterday?
Did you see the one of me and Alien explaining about how I got to Tegiak? I'm a
No.
body Thetan explaining how I got to Tegiak.
Let's see if I can share it properly here.
So stupid.
Hold on. How did you do that?
TikTok. I love my TikTok. Don't take away my TikTok ever. Don't.
All right, let's see if I can share this properly. Okay, hold on.
And then we get to Tegiak. So I was already a little annoyed because I'd just been kidnapped, right? And then we get frozen in glycol, which actually made the flight in the DC-8 to Tegiak a little more comfortable. I get a bit airsick. So that was okay. And then we get to Tegiak and no peanuts or pretzels, and we just get thrown into a volcano. That's not an appropriate way to greet someone to a new planet. And then on top of it, he dropped an H-bomb on us. Yeah, that bit stung a lot.
I saw someone making a comment on your channel about peanuts and pretzels. I didn't understand the reference. God, that is funny.
Well, Zito didn't even give us any water. There was nothing for the trip. You know, it was just a dry trip, frozen in glycol.
Oh my goodness.
So I've got more coming. I've got a whole bunch of stories in my head that I'm going to do.
A soon Cheryl is a rock star. And what is the dad? An immigrant himself. That's right. Him complaining about immigrants.
Oh, I know. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, do you not listen to yourself? Do you not hear what you're saying?
When immigrants complain about immigrants, they're really just complaining about non-white immigrants.
Basic. Oh, yeah. Oh, he was the most racist.
Well, there you go.
Oh.
CO Bill, Scientology should let people skip the boring auditing parts and go straight to the hollow moon gray aliens.
Yeah.
So the thing is, like, I wonder if people disagree with me on this. When you talk there's so many things that Scientologists believe that are as conspiracy theories that technically speaking, L. Ron Hubbard didn't say, but they become so popular within Scientology. And that's not, that's not to give air cover to L. Ron Hubbard.
Right.
It's just, you would think that L. Ron Hubbard was running around telling people the moon was hollow, when really it was just books that Scientologists loved reading, like Alien Agenda and Rule by Secrecy by Jim Marrs, that, like, it's not like L. Ron Hubbard told everybody to read those books, but it just matches up kind of with the stuff Scientologists already believe and then expands on it.
Exactly.
It
justifies their whatever beliefs, whatever things they've got going on in their head. I was at my cousin's house. My dad was there, her new boyfriend, who wasn't a Scientologist, and I'm doing the dishes after dinner, and they're talking about the moon is empty. It's full of computers, full of aliens who are...
It's like a spaceship.
They're
almost.
like the puppet masters. They are making us act wacko.
Yeah.
And Venus also. Oh, Venus too. Venus is empty too. And I'm like, just doing dishes like, I just want a hug from someone normal. That's all I ever wanted. And it was, I didn't understand that they weren't the only people having those conversations.
Yeah.
When you said this, was it last week with Daniel? I almost lost it. I fell off my chair. I'm like, oh my God, it's a group thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not that LRH went around telling everyone that was it, but this is what.
It's similar stuff. So, but I'll tell you this, and you might have heard me say this already, but so when I was in the Sea Org, that 2002 to 2006, my mom had married Bruce Thompson, who was the director of special affairs at the Philly Org. So he was the DSA. So, and the DSA has sort of a direct line, and people take issue with this, but RTC sends stuff directly to OSA, right? So Miscavige and RTC will send stuff directly to OSA. David Miscavige had personally ordered that all directors of special affairs read Jim Marr's book, Rule by Secrecy.
Really?
Which, of course, sounds like David Miscavige is endorsing everything that's in that book, which essentially, you essentially are by telling.
Basically, yes, yeah.
And Jim Marrs also wrote another book called Alien Agenda. And so Bruce and my mom at that point had come out to LA because my mom was doing auditing at AOLA. Like, they literally brought me these books and I read them in the Sea Org. Essentially having been told David Miscavige has endorsed these books. And so that's a perfect example of how what is in the book Rule by Secrecy and what is in Alien Agenda becomes like accepted. God, what's the word?
I hate to say the word, but lore.
I was going to say lore. It becomes, I hate to say it as well. I've got PTSD from that fucking word.
Me too.
But it becomes accepted lore in Scientology.
Exactly.
Because David Miscavige has endorsed it. Of course, everyone thinks that David Miscavige has already done OT 9, 10, and 11, and 12.
Oh,
so
of course.
They think he's got access to all the secret knowledge. And he's basically like, Jim Marrs has tapped into the secret knowledge. You should read it. And that's how that stuff proliferates amongst the Scientologists, even though L. Ron Hubbard didn't actually say that. Right?
See, this is so healing for me. No, he didn't. He didn't say any of that, right?
But he said a lot of just crazy shit.
Oh, close enough. My dad was there when L. Ron Hubbard would go off in the middle of the night on deck talking about the planets and the blah, 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 and how we came from. Oh, yeah. See?
Well, that's another example of stuff that gets into all of Scientology because L. Ron Hubbard did privately say a lot of stuff to a lot of people.
He did. He said a lot of weird stuff that isn't written down.
Yes.
To a lot of the group.
Yes.
Out there on deck in the middle of the night, he'd be talking about the planets and the galaxies and how this is where we're from and this is what we did and this is what we wore.
Yeah.
So it's not all written down, but there's culture. It's in the culture.
And I don't remember who I heard this story from, like where it filtered down from, whether it was Frank McCall or James Byrne or someone else that was on the ship of the Apollo, where like they're out there at night and apparently they see a freaking UFO and the people are sort of like, wow. And L. Ron Hubbard comes out and says like, don't wave at them. They're not our friends.
They're the fifth invader force.
Yeah, those are not our friends.
You're right.
Don't wave at them. He's like, that guy owes me $20. No.
I remember him from my time track. Where's my lawnmower? You still owe me my lawnmower.
That's right.
No, that's what my dad would say. He would just sit out there and just talk. And my dad would speak of him as if like the most intelligent junk was emanating from this magical being. Dad, did you see his teeth?
I know, right?
Ugh.
So magical. Couldn't keep those teeth clean.
But yeah, it's a culture. It's the law. There's other stuff within Scientology that is, and I'm so glad to find out that it wasn't just my family, that is everyone else too. Yeah.
CO Bill asks, did he ever do any of the upper Captain Bill levels?
Oh, well, he knew Captain Bill. My dad at the time, it was he did OT7 up to, and he did the L's. Very, very
in
proud.
Scientology.
In Scientology.
Oh, wow.
He's very, 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 very proud to tell me he did the L's. And I know everything. I know what to do when I drop the body. And I'm like, oh, does it involve Nikes? He didn't understand that reference. But did you?
No.
Marshall Applewhite?
I don't know.
Heaven's Gate? They all wore Nikes.
Oh, okay.
They all wore tracksuits and Nikes to drop the body so they could go and join the mothership. So I used to like say things like that and my dad would get really mad at me. Like, do you need a pair of Nikes, Dad? Do we need to go get somebody to look at me?
Okay. Carla's loving wife. Is it possible that the little gray was actually David Miscavige? It sounds like they are the same body type.
Could be. I didn't ask him if he was wearing a suit, but probably if it was an Italian suit, it was probably David Miscavige. Carla
says H stands for horse's ass too.
Yeah.
Karen McCourt, comment. Really learning a lot about Cheryl. Just love her more.
Thank you.
It's just me. Cheryl, what happened to the dog after your dad died?
What dog?
Yeah, I don't know. What dog?
From the incident? I know what dog.
There was no dog. There was never a dog.
I don't remember. Just Goliath.
Okay. PJ Mack, Feral Cheryl, thanks for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you for listening.
Marisa, Dianetics, showing some love for Cheryl, and they're drinking liquid death. How did I miss this? I think people think that these are like beers or something. This is literally just carbonated water. Yeah. Not even a sponsor, just like drinking the water. This is like, it seems like it's sort of the de facto dedicated water for like every podcast out there.
I know, right? Yeah, everyone drinks them.
This is how I chase clout. I drink liquid death.
I feel very clouty today. Very clouty.
I should do some like fake liquid death sponsorships.
It's cool graphics though.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of intense branding for just freaking water.
Well, see, this is why I thought it was like a Monster kind of energy drink. I didn't know it was water. I never tried it in my life.
Literally just the sparkling water. Antics of a Mama Squirrel. Feral Cheryl is participating in Dusty Soda Dispenser's game night and auction to support Cubs Champion 16 this Saturday, 8:30 Eastern.
We're doing a thing.
What's the update of Cubs Champion situation?
I'm not sure, but I know that we are going to be helping and raising, having a little fun. I crocheted a hat and some body Thetan, so we'll be giving those away and just
maybe I'll join you guys.
Oh, that would be so nice.
I want to help out Cubs. Abraham Orich catching up on 1.5 Love Cheryl's reference to I Love Lucy. When did you make that reference?
Oh, a while ago.
Did it go over my head?
Yeah. Well, that's because you grew up in Scientology. You grew up in a cult. What would you know about
That's
Lucy?
True. Northern Girl, seems like you have to pretend everything is working for it to end.
Yeah, that's it. Like every time I got a nerve or a touch assist from my dad, I would go, oh, yeah, oh, that's great. Oh, no, it feels better.
Yeah.
Always got to fake it.
Susie Q, they work around the clock and lose touch with everyone outside of Landmark.
Yes. Where if you join staff, it becomes just very Scientology.
Yeah.
Just all for the group.
Caroline H. OMG, what an amazing interview.
Oh, thank you.
And George Massey, a lot of religious people will use their faith to validate their bad behavior. Scientology is no different in that regard.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Justifies like my dad was just a selfish human being. And Scientology just gave him justification to be that. I find it just justified his nastiness. That's what I saw in him.
Okay, I want to show everyone your channel one more time here. Get this right. Boom. Feral Cheryl. You can find her channel right there. And pretty much every Friday evening, as long as we can help it, we're down in downtown Clearwater across from the Fort Harrison Hotel, protesting out there with Erica, Definite Trouble Source, with Lori. Lori plays official.
We just lost Lori.
What do you mean?
Last Friday, she said it's going to be her last.
Why?
Because people started looking into her.
We'll get her back.
Yeah, we're going to get her back.
Never say never. We'll get her back.
I didn't say anything to her we'll get her back.
We'll get her back. And Sarasota Jerry and Dusty Soda Dispenser.
And then little Jamie, we've got a new one called Jamie's been coming out to hang out with us.
Jamie's been a good regular. And so you can see me and Cheryl and the rest of the Clearwater crew out there. Let's see, anything else? Pretty much it. Thanks for helping with this experiment. I'll watch it on the replay.
Thank you for having me.
I think it was pretty great, man.
This has been fun.
My pleasure. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right